Real estate reviews are a great way for you to use your pricing to really stay in flow with clients and create new transactions. Now, the new Focus First Visual Home Values works really well to kind of guide you through that process and create an awesome real estate review. Now, to do this to start, we're going to click on this button here, or this card that says Create New Real Estate Review. Once I click this, you'll see that I have a little box that opens that lets me put in some information. So in this case, I'm going to make the customer name Tutorials. I'm going to make the address I'm going to be looking at, which in this case is in Fort Collins, Colorado. You obviously would do this to the correct information for your home that you're putting in, and mine is in English Ranch. Now, it's important you get this information here correctly, because as we go through, this will actually pull some information automatically for you as we go into the actual reporting process. But once I click Save, I have now created a new real estate review report page. Now, when it opens up here, you're going to see we have the ability to kind of take actions here, and then we're led through the steps on the left sidebar. Now, to navigate through the sidebar, I can either click on each of these steps or click the Go to Next Step option. In most cases, we're going to recommend clicking on the Go to Next Step option as you walk through this, because this whole thing is meant to guide you through that process. So first here, we're going to look at what our search should be. And as you can see, as I click on different options of what this home would kind of classify as, whether it be a standard neighborhood, a non-standard neighborhood, or a very unique property, the recommendations at the bottom of the page change. In most cases, we're going to look at standard neighborhood. This is about 70% of the cases. So I'm going to look at single family residence in this case, or property type, include the city and county, include all status activity, search by that subdivision name for the last 24 months or 2 years, and if you have too few results, you can kind of do some special things. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and take this recommendation, go to my MLS, and do that search. Once I've done that, I export it from my MLS, and now it's saved on my computer. So you notice the software hasn't changed because I haven't done any actions in the software yet, but that's where I jump in the MLS and do that step. Now that I have that file though, I'm ready to go to the next step in my software. First, I need to tell the software what MLS I'm using. Now you can see here, it automatically selected the MLS that I'm going to be using for this one because I'd selected it in the past. So basically, once you select one, it kind of stays with it until you select another one. But to find yours is pretty easy. All you have to do is click on these little drop-down menus, find your state, and you'll see your state's supported MLSs in this little drop-down here. You can always search just to make it easier and really kind of only find your results. And if you use one a lot, you can add that little star to it and favorite it. And if you have it favorited, you can kind of skip the whole step of searching or looking for it, because you can toggle the switch here and then only your favorite ones will show. So for example, I have 2 here that are favorited and just those 2 are in this possible results. But I'm going to go ahead and click on this one just to make sure it shows selected like it does right here. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go to next step. Now I'm ready to upload my export file. Again, I went to the other software, the MLS. I did my search based on that step in the software, and now I'm ready to upload it. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to upload my file, in this case 2 years English Ranch. Click Open. And then just like that, it'll tell me the data looks good, and it's uploaded. Now you might see a warning here, and some of these warnings are kind of meant to help you improve your search, not necessarily that they didn't upload. If this is ever red and says it failed, then you got to try again. Just click the button again, you can re-upload. If it's a warning sign, it kind of just lets you know, hey, you maybe made a mistake on your search, or the data looks a little bit different than we expected. It doesn't mean it doesn't work, but just a thing to kind of maybe keep your eye on if it's something that keeps popping up. But if you need to upload a second one, just click on that button again that says complete, and it'll let you upload a new file. But now we're ready to go ahead and go to the next step that we uploaded this file. Now in this next step, and you can see we're moving down the left as well, we're going to choose our template. Now there's 3 real estate review templates. The first one is a 1-page, very simple area sales trend that basically has some summary data and a scattergram. Our standard 2-page report, which shows the area patterns in a visual way, and then also has the scattergram to show the value. Or a multi-page report, which shows everything kind of laid out individually, as opposed to kind of condensed. So let me show you each of those really quickly. The first one, if I click on this 1-page report, loads very fast and just has this little simple layout. Now you can see I have the title at the top of the neighborhood, the summary of what's happened in the last year. I have a scattergram graph, and then just some information how to understand that. And then this is just kind of my message to my clients. Now you can see here the scattergram graph, the dots are not very close to the line, which is kind of one of the things we want to see. We have two real goals when we look at a scattergram. We want the line going up and to the right, and we want the dots pretty close to that. So what we're going to do next is show you how to customize your scattergram in Real Estate Review. Now all I have to do there is go to the next step. Now, since creating your report is the final step, in this case we will click on this left sidebar to get down to that. Click on the Customize Scattergram option, we open up our scattergram controls. There's a lot of awesome controls in this, but the first thing we want to take a look at is the boxes underneath here. These three boxes in the middle are kind of the x-axis controls, or basically what variable we're looking at. So right now we're looking at total square feet. If I wanted to maybe experiment with finished square feet to see if maybe these dots get closer, all I have to do is click this box. Now the graph live updated, and you can see it got really close to these dots here with one little random one that's kind of hanging out down there. But this is a much better looking scattergram right off the bat. Now the question you might be asking is, what's going on with this guy? Why is he so far below the line? Now if I hover my cursor over it, you'll see I can kind of pull up some information. Or if I click on that dot, I can actually add a text box that I can move around and stays attached to it. That gives me a little bit more of this information. Now obviously I've looked at this before and I already kind of know all the information on this data because I looked at the MLS. So in this case, I'm going to click on the Notes tab, and I'm going to type in that this is one of the patio homes. So it doesn't really match the other houses on this graph because it's a patio home, and that's why it's down here. Now if I click Save Note, you'll see it shows up on the little text box there. And so now I have this text box showing that. However, there's one little thing I want to do to make this scattergram a little bit better, and that's to take this out of the calculation for this trend line, because it is bringing it down a little bit, and it's not necessarily a true data point that I want represented here. Now to do that, if I look at this data sheet down here at the bottom, this is where I can control what properties are included by just simply clicking anywhere in the blue line. For example, Stonehaven, if I click it, it unchecks that box. It's no longer on the chart, and you can see the graph updates above. And I can do a lot of other things like editing the details by clicking the edit button if you found something that was wrong. I can add properties using the button here. But in this case, I want to talk about how to take this off the scattergram. So this one here is this 4056 Harrington Court, which is this guy right here. Now, some people would say just remove it and then just don't include it. But most sellers will want to know, but my neighbor sold, why is his house not on here? In this case, we want to leave it on there, but we don't want it pulling our line down. So all I have to do is click the checkbox here, and that'll actually remove it from the TL or the trend line. That way the trend line is more accurate. Now there's a lot of controls on here on how to customize things. For example, I can make the text box text a little bigger so you can read it easier. I can add a second trend line if you happen to be in an area of like new construction and resale. And I can really add my own properties or add kind of some other features to it. In this case though, if I'm happy with this graph and this is good enough for me, all I have to do is click Save and View Report. And then now I go back to the report, and you can see my graph is now updated and looks a lot more like we want it to look like. Now, if I want to change any of the things on this title or maybe down here in the footer, I can do that pretty easily under the Customize Report step down here. Now, I'm using the standard text for that footer, where if I want to change any of that information, I have to change my agent branding. So I can just click that button, change this, and then close it, and it'll update that footer information. I also have the option of uploading a custom graphic. This would be something you make on your own or your marketing department, and then upload something that looks exactly like you want to for that thin footer. I can come down here, I can change the report titles at the top. I can change the chart title. So for example, let me say I don't really need this activity line in there. And I can kind of change that messaging at the bottom to add more to it if I want to. Now there's three save options here, which is the save and stay here, which saves this information on that report, but I didn't change anything, so you can kind of save your work as you go. You can save and view report, which obviously just saves and opens the report. Or you can save and update your template defaults. So what this is really big on is this message here. If you wanted to kind of type in your custom message and you wanted that to be the same as every report you make, just click Save and Update Template Defaults, and it will automatically bring that kind of messaging in without you having to do everything anytime. So click Save and View Reports, and you'll see now, I have now removed that from this part of the graph. I could have updated more to show you, but just so you know, that's how it works. Now, if I ever wanted to try the other templates, it's actually pretty quick to switch between them. All I have to do is go back to this Choose Template step, and then click on, for example, here, the 2-page option, and I can now look at this 2-page report, where I have my neighborhood patterns on the front page, and then now my scattergram is still here. What you'll notice here is the scattergram didn't change, meaning all the work we put in on that first one got copied over automatically to here. If I want to try the multi-year one, or multi-page one, I click on the multi-page, and then it opens that new report. Now on the multi-page, you'll notice there are more options in this. So there's a cover page, FHFA page, and then each of these area patterns have their own individual page. And then we have the scattergram on its page as well. Now to change these, under the additional options feature, which is now new and wasn't here on the other templates, if we go to edit cover page, we can change the color theme on it. We can change some of this information up top using a custom graphic or the standard text. And we can kind of save and then view that in the report. We have the FHFA chart page by clicking this step here. We can change which FHFA we're looking at by clicking the drop-down menus up here to kind of find our area. It'll pre-populate this. And there's another page that doesn't get fully added in automatically, but you can add as a cool feature, which is the property details page. This allows you to kind of have your own self-made, essentially MLS page, where you can add in some features and some details. You can change the picture registered here by clicking on the upload option on this, and you can kind of have a map function so you kind of really show this whole kind of true understanding of the property. Now once you have your pages kind of made, you can come to edit report at the bottom here and then choose which pages you want to include. So for example, I don't have the property details page included or the data sheet, but if I wanted to, let's say, to add the data sheet, all I have to do is click this page and it would check the box on. Now, if I wanted to include that maybe ahead of time or otherwise, or maybe switch the order, all I have to do is click and drag, and I can change the order of these as well. Now, if I ever needed to reset, all I do is click reset, and it brings everything back to standard. But in this case, let's say I'm happy with that, and I want to view report. Once I do that, it reopens this page, and as we can see as I scroll down, at the very end now, I've added that data sheet, just kind of showing the information. So just like that, we've gone ahead and created our real estate review. We've created all three templates, and you can switch between them pretty easy. But when you're ready to go ahead and download this or print this, all you have to do is click the download button here or print function here. On Safari, it'll look a little different. It's actually down in the lower kind of very bottom portion. If you hover your mouse over this bottom part, you'll have the option to open it in preview or download it as well. So just like that, we've gone through the whole real estate review process, and we're ready to kind of present it to our customers and walk them through the information, create that connection, and really talk about their future plans. Now, in the CMA process, it goes a little bit more in depth on a lot of the information we're going to use, but just to note one last thing before we jump into that on the next tutorial video. If you did real estate review and you had this successful meeting and they wanted to go ahead and start a CMA, they said, yes, you know what, we want to sell. You did a lot of work, you got your scattergram great here. And what's really cool is we can convert this and basically copy this information into a new CMA report that we don't have to create a new one and kind of start from scratch. All you have to do is click this button right here, and this uses this RER, or real estate review data, to create a new competitive market analysis with those changes already put in. So your scattergram would already look like you want it to look, and you're ready to kind of go into that next step of positioning because you've already done all that work. Now, if you are in that presentation phase, one last thing, you can also click this present button here, and this will open it. You can kind of walk through. So if you happen to be kind of logged into the website, you can kind of show it live in person if you want to do it this way as well. Hopefully this video gave you some clarity on using the real estate review. Again, it's pretty simple as you walk down the steps, and as you do it more and more, you'll get more accustomed to it and really kind of get the hang of it in a way that becomes very quick, very efficient, and it really makes it so easy to take action. And that action of calling your customers, connecting with them over real data like this, is what really drives that new transaction and that growth in your business.